Today's guest is a supporting sponsor of Liberty in Finance.
Welcome back to Liberty in Finance. I'm your host, Dunnigan Kaiser. We're joining on Thursday, July 10th, 2025. Our guest is a returning guest, Shane Williams, the CEO of West Red Lake Gold, joins us again here live at the Boca Raton Rick Rule Symposium on Natural Resources Investing. Shane, thanks for coming back on Liberty in Finance.
Excellent. Great to be back on, Regan.
We have been excitedly, it was about a year ago, we introduced West Red Lake Gold to our audience, and the remarkable pace of news progress releases towards, basically dusting the dust off of an existing mill, getting the mine ready, towards getting ready for production, and the rapidity of progress along that trajectory has been remarkable. And we'd love to get an update from you. Our audience and our viewers have been watching and waiting. We've been promising them we're going to have you back to talk about that progress towards production and your targets in that regard. Can you bring us up to date?
Yeah, I can. Just to step back a little bit, as you said, last year we were here and we were a developer. This year we're here, we're a producer. So it's a great position to be in. Very few companies were here last year as developers and moved into production. So yeah, we have moved very quickly. We've done a number. It took us a long time to get going. We had a lot of drilling to do, a lot of de-risking to do. And that kind of all came together the first half of this year, basically. We did our pre-feasibility study, came out. We did a lot of work on buying new equipment, getting ready. And we've just started into production in March. We did our bulk sample. If you remember, we put out results there. That's kind of the culmination of all the work we've done. And then we made a decision to go back into production. So we started in March, and then we've been ramping up since then. March, April, May, June, July, ramping up. We're producing we started off about 500 ounces a month, then we went to 1,000 ounces a month, then we went to 2,000 ounces a month. So we're now in July, we're aiming for 2,500 ounces a month. So, look, it's a great time to be starting gold mine with the price where it is. So the plan is now between now and the end of the year to keep ramping up to that 3,000 to 4,000 ounces a month, consistent by the end of the year. I bet next year take another ramp up and our run rate would be like 60,000 ounces a year, Raj.
This initial, you did a bulk sampling. In other words, rather than just taking drill holes here and there, you actually got a millable amount of material that you were able to test and make sure it had the grades you were looking for.
Yeah, because that was a lot of on the history of the asset. There was a lot of uncertainty around. Are the grades there? Is the alignment there? Is the model doing? Is the geological model working? So we wanted to test that. So we actually did where we went underground. We designated a number of areas across the ore body. It wasn't just one particular area. We took 3 or 4 different areas, and then we actually mined them. We physically went under, we mined them. And because we have a mill and the facilities, we actually ran them through the mill and it was kind of like a batch process. We took one, run it through, stopped it, did a full reconciliation between A and B, then got all the numbers, did the second one in stages. So it was it wasn't continuous operation, but it was more of a testing phase. Then we stopped, we got all the results of all that, put it together, published the results, showed that yes, the model is working, it's the way it's working. And then we made that decision to restart as normal. And then we started to ramp back up. Probably in May, we did April and March and April, we did that bulk sample. And then in May, we said, okay, it's working, let's keep going. And we started to ramp up.
Rick always talks to our subscribers and viewers every month when I have him on, and he talks to us about the importance of getting answers to the unanswered questions, the critical questions that are going to be like a fork in the road. Are we going to go this way or are we going to go that way? And are there any remaining, you mentioned, and I'm going to ask you separately, what it is you're doing to do the ramp? What makes the difference between July and then September and so on? But help us understand if there are still, as part of your whole de-risking process, if there are still some significant unanswered questions that you're still looking for answers to.
No, not really. At this stage, it's more about consistent production. There's no left from my side that we needed to, as I would say, solve. When I started this, I had a couple of these unanswered questions. One was, does the geology work? That's the fundamental thing in a mine. Does the geology work? Can we mine it? And then is the ore body economic? So again, a pre-feasibility study was put out that shows it is economic. Our bulk sample reconciliation shows, yes, the geology, the ore body, our understanding of it works. And then the decision to ramp up allows us to grow over time. Yeah.
So as part of that ramp up, what would prospective investors understand that you are doing to change the overall throughput to increase that over time?
Yeah, so in this testing ramp up phase we're doing, our mill can run at 800 tons a day. So our mill can run at 800 tons a day. So what we're doing, and we're testing now the mill throughput, how much it can go through it. We're testing at 800 up to 800 tons a day, 1,000 tons a day, just to test it all the extremes. What does the recovery look like? Are we getting good recovery? What recovery we're getting? Ore body. And we're also underground and testing which ore part of the ore body is better to move, quicker to move, how we can run that. And then as we're doing that, we're testing all those phases. And we're also still buying new equipment. There's equipment coming, arriving. You know, you buy equipment, it takes 2 years to get on site. So the ramp up was designed so that as that new equipment is coming towards the back end of this year, that allows us those step changes to get to there.
Help us understand, if you've got a particular amount of material you've removed from the ground and now you want to run it through the mill, how do you determine what percentage of the potential or the latent gold that could be possibly obtained from that you actually are obtaining through your milling process, and how much is still remaining in your tailings?
Yeah, so basically as you're going through the process, every part of the process is sampled effectively. They're taking samples every part of that process. So basically, so what you're doing is as you're grinding it and breaking it up and crushing it and putting it through the various tanks and leaching it, you're sampling at all stages. So you really know effectively when your doré comes out. That's your kind of final product. That's how much you're making. And then with all the sampling, you work backwards and do an analysis of all them stages of the process.
And as part of your ramp up time roadmap, is extracting a greater percentage of the potentially extractable gold in the ore that you're mining part of that ramp up?
Yes, it is. It is. And also testing how much is the maximum we can take out of that. You know, what's the recovery? What's the best recovery? Tuning the system, the process to just get it right. So these are all, you want to be putting these in a ramp up phase. When you're going steady state, you don't want to be doing all this. So you use a ramp up phase to get that all right. Yeah.
We were coming off of a multi-year low sentiment and low market rewarding of the precious metals. So this is our 4th year in a row in person at the RICS symposium. We did a previous one virtually. And it's been a long ride for companies not being rewarded by the markets. But then there's been a distinct change in the last, say, half a year or so. What are you seeing, especially now that West Red Lake Gold has made the transition from a developer to an operating company? What are you seeing already, and what do you anticipate most likely to be the market's multiple, or the way at which the market is viewing West Red Lake Gold relative to how it had been in the past?
Yeah, it has been a quite number of few years, but I'm also finding that the money is starting to come back into the space. Obviously, gold at record high prices. It's just beginning to trickle down. You know, a lot of the majors, a lot of the big companies, and it's beginning to trickle down. And importantly, one of the reasons we pushed to get into production is, I think this time, rather than the last bull market, money is being more discerning. So it's going to the right stories. It's not going everywhere. And that's why at West Red Lake, we're finding that people are more interested now that we're in production, cash flowing assets in production. That's what they're looking for. And that's where we're kind of positioning ourselves. So we're getting a lot of interest here at the show from people who want cash flowing assets, near-term production, but also with growth, ahead of themselves.
So what do you anticipate a most likely direction for investors in the company if the market continues to recognize West Red Lake Gold as an actual producer, and what you described is something that Rick has talked to our audience several times about, and that is that after a lull in sentiment, it's only going to be the ones that are proven performers like the big majors necessarily who get the first money. And eventually, as the momentum builds and interest builds and awareness builds across the investing public, then after a while, anything that has gold in its name, whatever. But it makes a big difference to be an early entrant who actually has production and who has profitability. So what do you anticipate as a target, or what you're hoping for in terms of multiples that the market will be rewarding you as recognizing that you're a producer?
Yeah. So again, go back a little bit. We're the only, this year, into next year really, there's only 2 or 3 gold mines in the world being put into production by juniors at the moment. Artemis was one in Canada. There's only one in Canada. We're the only one in Canada. So the space is small for those investors coming in. So, there's not many new developers. I mean, there's big companies putting mines in, but if you want the smaller companies where you can get that leverage, West Red Lake is a clear favorite at that. I do believe that as we move into production, we will get a re-rating. And I would say typically it goes the PNAV, which is used, from a 0.5 to a 1, basically. So that's a doubling of our market cap. Is a good position as we get re-rated, as we start to generate cash, as we start to get the commercial production into next year.
Our audience will remember that I was initially reluctant to talk to West Red Lake because I saw the rapidity of the press releases that are coming out. I thought it actually went through my mind, this is too good to be true, because you don't see this kind of speed from just coming on the radar to now we're doing our just moving past all the goalposts so quickly, and yet now you're producing.
Now we're producing.
So that's an amazing time. We promised everyone we'd bring you back here to talk about progress, and this is one of those steps. We're going to for sure put a link to the website of the company in the description of this video. So folks, if you want to find out more about West Red Lake and their remarkable story, you'll find it at their corporate website in the description of this video. Look there. In addition to that resource of the corporate website, how else should prospective investors find out more about West Red Lake?
So they can sign up to our investor network. We do a lot of work on social media. We do a lot of, as you say, we don't bombard people, but what we like to try and do is we've sent out a lot of stuff to our investors on education. We're building an education series. So,
that's a good point. We've seen a number of press releases come out that are not just related to operations. They're related to fundamental aspects of de-risking and proper management,
because
and so on.
I want to give there's a lot of new investors into the industry now.
True.
And mining is complicated. And if you don't know that, I'm trying to get people as well, not just about West Red Lake, but also understand the process. How do we mine gold? How do we go the different...
I should have mentioned that. Sorry, everyone. I should have mentioned that West Red Lake has been putting out a number of bulletins that are not just company focused. They are industry focused and helping us understand step by step so many aspects of the process. And of course, it applies to West Red Lake. And in fact, it's a favorable application because of the progress they're making across all those fronts. But to even know that all of those areas of challenge exist and how the best approaches are, the proven approaches to solving them is a great way of education. So just as Rick visits us here to talk in general about things he looks for in a company, you have looked at it, the lens from the other direction, saying, look, this is what we're seeing is necessary to understand in order to do well here. And here's how we're approaching those things.
And also the process itself. What are the stages of gold mining? How do you move to A to B? What should you be looking for? Because I think it's important to give that education and so people can just sign up to on our webpage.
And these are just a few pages. They're very easy to, it isn't going to put you to sleep at night.
It's going to put you to sleep tonight. Because most presentations, as you know, in mining, we're not so good at it. Everyone talks technical, very technical details and drill holes. But
that's what happens when you put a bunch of geologists in server.
Exactly.
Well, you have Gwen
I have Gwen, and one of the beautiful things about Gwen is she's not a technical person. So she takes our technical jargon.
Communicator.
She's a communicator, and she can then break it down into simple steps. And sometimes we read it and go, "Oh, that's much better." May explain there.
Why didn't I say it that way?
Why didn't I say it that way?
Yeah.
So that, we're getting a lot of good feedback from that people appreciate that, because it's if you're new to the industry, where do you go? How do you talk to people? It's overwrought.
Someone who speaks human. Yeah. So we appreciate that.
And that's a good. So I would advise your listeners and your viewers to want to get some education. We're the only one doing that, actually. We're the only one in the industry doing that, so you can see the stages of how to build a mine, effectively.
Yeah. So don't miss that opportunity. I should have mentioned that earlier, guys. Is just a quick little. It's a high-speed master course in the basics, the fundamentals of mining, and it's a real eye-opener, a good thing to understand, and it demystifies, it puts in human language a lot of the things that are important to understand that companies are going through, and it will help us to discern better going forward which companies are knocking down those barriers and passing those bridges as they put their production path to profitability forward in the interest of their shareholders.
Yeah, it's good knowledge.
And you talk about other things too, not just the shareholder aspects, but the things that are what's good for the local communities, what's good for the geology. So, Shane, just very glad that it's very busy at the show. He's got a lot of people pulling on him, but thanks for coming on Liberty and Finance, giving us this update. We're going to look for more, because our viewers and subscribers turn to us. They turn to Rick. He's on our show every month. He's educating us. We're trying to keep up with, and these things are changing fast. They're moving fast now. The industry, with the gold price and more investors, it's moving fast. We've met quite a lot of investors here. First time. That's right. They have money. They're thinking about reallocation. They don't know anything. They've heard mining. That's another point. Just beginning to come in, and they're asking questions. But it's a good sign, I think. It's a good sign when the U.S. investors are beginning. No, not even mining. They hear that gold and they hear about it, but just beginning to come in, and that's just dipping your toe at this stage. Just last night, as we do every week, we had a weekly market update with Andy Scheckman, CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals, and he talked about the bigger picture of exactly what you're describing. You've got even the insiders, the CEOs of the high-flying tech companies that have been the Magnificent Seven, that have been leading the major indices, who are net sellers for the past 6-to-1. 6-to-1 net sellers of their stocks for the past half a year here. And you've got the mom and pops who are being told by their retail financial advisors, look, that's the only game in town. You got to buy the things that have been going up in business market leaders. And we've seen this movie before. It's this rotation from strong hands exiting a sector, and the ordinary retail investor filling up the slack and holding the bag. Where are those main insiders going? They're going into hard commodities, and of which obviously precious metals are preeminent. And those companies that are proven performers and that are actually getting the job done can be benefit at a multiple of just the base metal, the metals themselves. So we're keeping an eye on West Red Lake Gold. I think we all should be. And thank you, Shane, for being here with us to bring us this update.
Excellent. Great to be on. Thank you, Dan.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.